Lost in space and time for over 10,000 years, on a mission they were never meant to return from. They have returned from the horrible secrets of space. They are the Comic Shop.
We'll just
Am I
go.
too far
Oh
away?
my goodness, where are we?
I'm too far away.
Oh, now we're on camera.
You're listening to The Comic Shop does a podcast for the first time in several months.
3
No,
weeks.
3
3 or
weeks.
3 weeks, almost a month.
3 weeks minimum.
Bass, treble, and bass. Mr. Lee showing his beautiful face, also known as Abby Chase.
Yo, word to your mother. I'm also here, Evan Coy, a.k.a. Red Monica, and we have a very special guest with us today,
It's me, I think.
Scarlet X.
Okay, Scarlet X. Am I on camera?
You're on camera.
You're in there, yeah.
You're fine.
Am I in there?
You're in frame.
You're in there like swimwear.
Uh,
All right.
Hey,
You can tell we're rusty. Hey, coming at you.
coming at you live.
I'm dead.
Oh, boy.
Inside.
So, yeah, we haven't been here in a few weeks. We had a couple COVID scares, I think.
I did not.
Not a scare, straight
Well,
up. We got it. We got it, baby.
Oh, you got it.
No,
I did
Well,
not.
I got it in May, but the rest of my immediate family
I'm backwards on my microphones today,
got
too.
it these past few weeks. So I've tested negative through all of it, but you know,
Are
and
you
then
positive? Are you positive you're
I'm
negative?
positive that I'm negative.
All right.
Because I took one today.
I 2 weeks ago woke up feeling awful during the weekend, and I decided that we shouldn't do it on that coming Monday because I would, so though I was testing negative, I just felt terrible.
Look
and I
terrible,
think I
too.
do. I always look awful. That's just my branding.
The look.
Yeah. But I almost think, in hindsight, it was like allergies that just made me feel awful for a couple days. Several people were telling me about terrible allergies they were having, and that's kind of how I felt. Although I was definitely run down too, so I don't know. And then
That's how my family got it. Because we went out on the Wednesday, the comic shop Wednesday thing.
yeah,
And my mom watched Lucy during that time, and my mom had a sore throat. She's like, "I'm sure it's just from the air conditioner."
Nasty
It wasn't from the air conditioner. So, but everybody's fine and doing well and recovering just fine.
I've had 0 COVID scares personally. I'm the loser of the group.
yeah. Tell us about the Wednesday rooftop thing. That was kind of fun.
I don't remember.
Are we're gonna make we can publicly
We
disclose
did
that?
a comic shop gets a life or something. I don't know.
Comic
We
shop
did-
has a social life.
That's what it was. Where we just a few of us got together, hung out on the rooftop. Didn't really. We did eventually get to go outside.
Yeah, it was raining
but
a little
this
bit.
was
when
the
we
second
got there,
time
right?
that we have been there where there was rain. But wonderful place. Very very nice atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Staff is great. Very helpful, attentive.
It felt very upscale for
Yeah.
Oswego.
Yeah, you almost shouldn't have been there.
No, I thought you would have figured out not to wear your little shorts.
I feel like I
second
overdressed
time.
for when I came out.
You did.
Mr. Lee, you look good though. You clean up. You're a handsome fella.
I do what I can, you know.
The Lees are a very attractive couple.
I do. They are.
Lees are a
Beautiful,
very attractive
beautiful
couple.
baby, beautiful dog. There's a lot of good looking.
Only beautiful things in our house.
Good looking energy going on in the Lee compound.
Fire drinks. Yes, that's right.
Mrs. Lee says, and fire drinks.
Oh yes, you did get a drink that.
She set her drink on fire.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not her, but the server came out
Yeah.
and
You all had left at that point. And
Oh,
it was
set
the
just
drink on
Lees
fire.
and me pity staying around them.
Well, you know.
I had a
Future-
good time at that event.
Future potential event, although I'm not sure how this works and for how much longer, the tiki barge thing is kind of interesting.
It's really
Oh,
booked
Martin's
out.
already rolling his eyes.
I'm not laughing my eyes at the tacky bar.
All right.
Tiki
Well,
bar.
I'm
mispronounced
not
that.
laughing my eyes at the tiki. Are you an AI, Martin?
I am.
Is that what's happening?
I am.
Are you developing consciousness and now we're afraid to unplug you?
Yes.
Oh.
Should I go? Should I talk about my favorite AI thing?
Yeah.
So I've been boring every.
Thank you, Lucas.
I'm very excited about this thing. I've been obsessed with it. Not as obsessed lately, but it's this thing called crayon.com. It used to be DALL-E. It's an AI that tries to illustrate different prompts that you write into a little, like a little text box, and it is phenomenal. So Like you can, if some artists that I've found, like let's say you want to type in Martin, give me just a scene, any kind of scene that you might see anywhere, just like whatever.
A nanny with a group of children out in the hills.
So a nanny with a group of children out in the hills. You could type that in, and some of the artists that I've found, like you
Are
you
the
could,
hills alive?
Only with the sound of music.
you could have that generate with different artist styles. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. Some of the different artists you can use, they have good results. Frank Frazetta has really good results. Sam Keith has really good results. Jim Mahfood has really good results. Osamu Tezuka has really good
Bless you.
results. Katsuhiro Otomo
Again, bless you.
has really good results. Rob Liefeld has really fun results. So if you type in "woman in the hills with lots of children," Rob Liefeld,
None of them would have feet.
that's correct. But it is very interesting, and it generates a lot of really inspirational things. I've been actually running a lot of different scenarios that I've been working on for the different stories I'm illustrating right now, and just the stuff that comes back has been very inspiring. I don't draw
Leslie pages
verbatim.
47 through 62 are going to be just illustrated by this app, right?
No. I'm using it as inspiration. Like I'm looking at it and then redrawing it or combining it with other things. It's not exactly what I want, but I do a lot of photo editing to get the different scenes that I want, so I have an idea of what that looks like.
It helps him Roger Cruise better.
Yes, Roger Cruz. I actually
Rob
love
an
his,
artist right now. Come on. I haven't heard you
Is
complain
he really?
once. Yeah, he is, and Ivan hasn't brought it up once to me.
is Roger Cruz is an artist who worked on X-Men and other things.
Actually, one of the things we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Cliffhanger Comics today. And Roger Cruz, very adjacent to Joe Madureira, who did Battle Chasers, was an X-Men artist. And oftentimes when you couldn't, he wasn't the best deadline guy, I don't think. So sometimes you would bring in people like a Roger Cruz to just like ape his style and finish those X books and keep the train chugging. So
I think there was kind of an editorial mandate, though, I think at certain times, because there's that one issue of Wolverine with that one guest artist where he's just like taking Jim Lee panels and just copying them over. Do you remember this?
I don't.
It was the where he fights Deadpool. Actually, you probably have this issue of Wolverine with the X where he's kind of impaling Wolverine.
do you remember that?
Red cover?
Yes.
Yeah,
Red and
okay.
blue.
I do
Red and
vaguely. It's there in my consciousness somewhere.
They brought a guest
You've
guy
seen
in,
it a million times.
and there's several like, and I'm not against swipes. There's several Jim Lee swipes in there, but
We
I'm
have
not
we have
against them.
differing opinions on swipes. Martin, how
make it good. I don't care if it's original if you make it good.
Martin, how do you feel about the swipes?
Most of the time, is if I notice it, then it draws me a little bit out of the story because I'm like, oh, come on, really? But I mean, good art's good art. Steal it. But
I don't know. I think that
it depends to the degree that it's done, and I don't know. It's a little bit like stealing.
it's a lot like stealing, which
But I love Greg Land, so
I have a bigger issue with Greg Land.
You do, he does.
Because Greg Land takes people's stuff off of like Deviant Art.
Oh, does he
like
really?
like
Yeah.
At least if you're
Yeah.
gonna swipe and you're swiping from Jim Lee, you're swiping from Jim Lee.
Yeah, don't swipe down.
But if you're
pretty much
swiping,
a jerk, yeah.
from a college kid, Jim
Yeah.
Lee's a jerk, but he's a professional jerk. If you're swiping from an amateur
Is
jerk,
Jim Lee
like,
actually a jerk?
I think so.
he's got to be.
Evan will read a sentence later that will illustrate that.
The sentence just goes, Jim Lee is a jerk.
It is. It's what it is.
I mean, I could see him having like kind of a brusque attitude with people because he's a busy guy. He's got lots of stuff going on.
He's a businessman. Jonathan Lego Man in the chat. What's up, Jonathan? He's saying, hey, hello. You gang all caught up on SDCC news. And I'm just going to say a blanket statement.
No.
Absolutely
No.
not.
No.
I have not read Scott Bandela's posts for the last 4 days. So
Shout out to Scott Bandela, though.
I'm not. He's got everything.
So he's there, obviously? Or is he
No,
just
no,
So he's
no.
just copying Sig?
Yeah, he is
Okay.
finding all the information.
Oh, that takes a little bit of the fun out of it. I thought, you know who Scott Bandela is?
No.
You've probably met him.
Vague,
probably met him. I think he's been in the
vague
shop
friend
while
of
I've been
the shop. He's not here too often, but he's very supportive. Comes out to the different events. His kids shop here every once in a while.
Yeah.
But he's been posting like a madman all the SDCC updates, which led me to believe he was there. But apparently
He went a few years ago.
he's just retweeting,
but
baby.
Yeah,
see
he's
so many-
staying on top of everything.
On social media, just because I follow so many different publishers and stuff, like things like Aftershock and like IDW and stuff like that. It seems like whenever they post, it's like when they have downtime, so there's like nobody around. So like I think I would have a really good experience at San Diego Comic-Con because I would be hitting up all these things like when they were dead. Because that's what I do. I like to go where the people aren't.
I want to go where the people aren't. I don't know the rest of that song.
Not always, but sometimes.
What's that from? Is that Little Mermaid?
It is Little
Thank
Mermaid,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. I'm very cultured. You're
You've
welcome.
done a lot of musical theater singing today.
I did.
Some of
We
the
were-
best musicals from 1989.
He was giving me highlights, the best of the Sound of Music.
Yeah, that's right.
I can do Sound of Music.
He did not yodel, though. I was very disappointed.
You know,
Yodel, 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 yee-hoo.
There we go.
So sidebar, I've been putting together a playlist on my Amazon Music called Dad Pop. So there's certain songs in there I put in there like "Life on Mars" by David Bowie. I feel like that's good dad pop. The Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. I believe that's good dad pop. Genesis. The I Can't Dance.
Oh, I knew you
period.
were going to say I Can't Dance for some reason. I had a few songs go through my head.
Good
but-
Arlene pop right there.
Yeah. But like that whole era of Genesis is basically like all dad pop. Like once you get to a certain point, and I love it.
Genesis might be the first band that I ever got into.
Oh yeah.
Sexually.
Yes, Phil Collins and I. He took a drug. No,
Oh.
my friend Jason, his older brother Jared was like all of our older brothers. Like when Jared turned 18 and we were all like 13, 14, he would take us to the R movies and things like that as the adult. But I remember him really being into Genesis, and this is probably late 80s, early 90s. And I was like, oh, well, he's the cool older brother. I don't have an older brother, but he was just like all of our older brother. And I remember like listening to like Genesis, maybe cassettes.
Yeah.
Not that. And again, you know, this
So
is when
old,
you're
so old.
when you're 8 years old. And you're like, well, he's cool and he likes Genesis, so Genesis must be a good band. So that's like the first band I ever remember. And then my first instance of getting into radio, I had another friend, Matt Daler, and we had like a recordable, whatever, another cassette thing, and you could play music and you could dub vocals over it. So we would pretend that we were radio DJs
Oh, that's cool.
and talk over Michael Jackson cassettes. And his sister was the program manager. I don't even know how we came up with this game as like 8-year-old kids. But the program manager, she would come in and yell at us, and then we would complain about his sister as the program manager, and then we'd go, and here's some more Michael Jackson. So those are like my two earliest music memories: is Genesis,
That's wild.
and Michael Jackson pretending to be radio guy. So
Because I recorded stuff off the radio with a cassette, but I wasn't creating.
Yeah, whole shows, and
Yeah.
he wasn't hosting drive time.
Creating a Frasier-esque scenario.
how elaborate these
listening.
shows really were, I don't quite remember, but I do remember doing this several times. And then there were comments that we would make about the Michael Jackson cassettes that I will refrain from making those comments today. So,
That's probably for the best.
yeah. Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
Martin, do you want to tell us about Cliffhanger? Does
No.
anybody remember Cliffhanger? Cliffhanger was a really big deal. That was
I thought it was a really big deal, but looking back now, I think maybe it's not quite.
It was a big
as
deal in
as it
Wizard.
was.
That's why I know about it.
I don't even know if it was that either, because
I
I
know-
was having a hard time finding stuff even in Wizards.
Well, the reason I knew about it
Was
was
be-
that
yeah.
it was because of Wizard.
They had that free issue and everything. Cliffhanger is an imprint of Wildstorm, which at the time was a part of Image. They formed in 1998, early 98, late 97 probably would be more
because
accurate, I think.
Danger Girl was March of '98,
Yep,
so I
that was the
imagine
first,
you know they'd probably been working on it for a few months up until then.
The general impression I got is this is something that was probably formed with the help of Jim Lee. It's three creators: J. Scott Campbell.
Joe Madureira.
Oh, I did it wrong.
We can do
I was
it
going to have
again.
us each do our creator that we did our book
Oh,
on, but never mind. And you can take mine.
we-
Take mine. Humberto Ramos.
Humberto Ramos
Yes.
and Brian Augustin.
Yes, as a writer.
He doesn't. He was the writer. He
because-
doesn't count.
because-
If
Yeah, no, he doesn't
count.
if we were doing homage, we would
Because-
talk about the writers.
Because one artist realized I need a writer, and that was Humberto Ramos.
No, J. Scott Campbell had a writer too.
Did he have a writer with him?
Yes.
Who did he?
Let me see.
Who worked on
I think that they all had writers with them, but I think this
Well,
was
they had
a
the-
lot like
oh,
Mark
yeah.
Silvestri hiring his brother Eric Silvestri to
Yeah.
write early issues of Cyberforce. Like, you were just kind of getting your buddy. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that these were big names.
Andy Hartnell. Yeah, definitely not a writer.
Oh, actually, I do kind of
I
remember that. Yeah.
kind of remember that too, actually.
Maybe he might have been a writer before, but I think it's definitely a situation where you're buddies with them, because I think Andy Hartnell still writes whenever Danger Girl pops up again, like a crossover.
Yeah, and maybe I just recognize that name from Danger Girl.
Yeah,
then,
the three core titles were Danger Girl, Battle Chasers, and Crimson. The imprint lasted from '98 until 2004.
When did Jim Lee sell out to DC?
Around issue 3 or 4, I'll have the
Okay.
specific. Yeah, around 3 or 4, because the sales data gets kind of weird, and that's like the first major hiccup in their shipments and things like that. It was beautiful books, wonderful artwork.
Yes.
Riddled with a horrible release schedule.
It's very funny that this was very much billed as like the Image Wave 2.0, where you had the 3 hottest artists in the industry.
Two hottest artists and this other guy. Yeah.
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 I mean, he had a little bit of heat.
Impulse is not the book that sells you. Is
Did we look up sales data for Impulse at all?
I don't. Have
I
a
thought
specific
Impulse
one.
was a big book. I could be wrong.
It was, but it was nowhere near like the popularity of Gen 13.
It's
and
not-
especially
It's not
Penny
X-Men. Yeah. But it was billed as kind of Image 2.0. And we laughed at all of the press that these guys were putting out, saying, "Well, it's not going to be like Image. Like we're going to put out great stuff we meet our deadlines and things like that." And the exact same thing happened. That there was probably a lot of money tossed around.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had their taste of fame, putting their properties forward. The Hollywood studios come calling. The video game companies come calling. And within 6 months to a year, the train has kind of derailed. So
massively. Yeah, the original third partner was supposed to be Michael Turner, who is a lightning rod for Image stuff. But he was unable to get out of his contract with Top Cow in time, which is why Top Cow got Fathom and Cliffhanger did not.
Okay.
That's interesting. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, Michael Turner was also the artist that Rob Liefeld tried to steal away from Top Cow and caused a lot of the problems with the...
Did Mark Silvestri say, like, either he goes or I go?
Yep, that was part of that whole splinter around the Heroes Reborn and all that.
Because Top Cow left Image for
Briefly,
a minute. I think it wasn't very long, like less than 6 months.
Nope. And yeah,
before everybody got together and kind of kicked Rob out.
Yep.
For trying to
But then
poach
he
talent.
left before they could formally.
Yes.
I think that timeline is disputed. I think it depends on who you talk to.
Well, I listened to the Observations podcast.
And he's got the receipts.
He's got the receipts.
He'll tell you about them 4 times in a row in the same podcast.
Jonathan, rest in peace, Michael Turner. Michael Turner was mad young.
Yep.
Was he even 30?
I want to say he was like 34.
Yeah, I think
was
he was at least
mad
in his 30s.
young.
That's wild. Could you imagine Fathom coming out on the Cliffhanger line? That seems
would have been
weird.
bigger than Crimson.
I've got the sales numbers on number 1 for Fathom too. If we want to go into that.
Do you want to
yeah,
talk
def-
sales numbers? I kind of.
Yeah, let's go into it. We brought it up a few times.
I'll never find it.
But it's like that book is such a Top Cow book in my mind. I couldn't imagine it not being.
I could see it being Cliffhanger.
So, Danger Girl 1 launched at 154,000 copies sold. Battle Chasers 1 was 110. We'll go with 111,000 copies sold.
That's it.
It was massively under order for what it was because it was a fantasy book, and I don't think retailers wanted to touch it. And Crimson was 109,000. The run to the litter.
You're telling me Battle Chasers only sold 1,000 more copies than the first issue of Crimson one?
Yeah.
Why do I think that?
Yeah, that's
To me, in my mind, I did.
It doesn't stay close to that as they go on, but
I did. Everybody researched different things. Aaron did Danger Girl. I did Battle Chasers.
Yeah.
Martin did Crimson. I kind of thought Battle Chasers was the biggest.
No, I think issue 3 or 4 is when it starts. It becomes the dominant one, and just barely. No, it was. I was one of the. I don't think it's in my notes. One of the articles I was reading for Wizard was the person was going off about how underordered that Battle Chasers 1 was because retailers didn't want fantasy didn't sell at that point. It wasn't his X-Men, so it got a lot of like pity orders just because his name was on there, and then took off from there. But Fathom number 1, which came out in July '98, just a couple months after Crimson, had the number 1 spot, and it was 257,000.
That makes sense to me. I thought every number you were
Yep.
going to say was going to be a $250,000.
Yeah, nope. I was shocked at how low they were for the number 1s, but
Oh, Fathom sold that much. Like,
I don't have information on second printings or anything. I couldn't
Yeah.
find anything like that.
because I don't even really know the plot really of Fathom. I just know the covers. Like she has water powers.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna guess there really wasn't a plot.
Ship disappears. Years later, comes back. She is the only survivor. I can't remember how it goes, and she has somehow acquired these aquatic powers.
Interesting.
That's all I remember.
See, what's nice about being an adult that has a job is like now all these books I couldn't afford back then, like I can find
You can get
them.
in trade.
Yeah, get in trade. Check it out.
Check it out now.
So yeah, Fathom would have been a huge coup for Wildstorm and Cliffhanger at that point.
Yeah. The numbers alone on that would have been.
Well,
Would've
here's
been
some more
helpful.
shocking trivia.
Okay, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
She's a very nice lady.
But maybe it was a good thing that it was on Top Cow because that way it didn't get. It seems like this whole thing got purchased by DC as they were going forward.
Yeah, it was like with around issue 3 or 4, it ended up. I think the purchase.
And they ended
Wow.
up combining because I'm going to say Homage was the writers' studio,
I
and
think
then
they junked a bunch
Cliffhanger
together.
was the artist studio imprint of Wildstorm. But they kind of mushed them together at DC.
Wildstorm Signature Series is what they became.
Okay,
that's-
which I would never have got
yeah.
that in a million years. But
Which I think had like a red logo instead of a purple logo for Wildstorm. I think it released.
Weren't there some other
Where-
Cliffhanger books
where
that came
did-
out with after?
there were
I know it's Steampunk by Chris
the
Bocello.
list.
Bacalo.
It's actually Bocello. I learned this
Bocello?
from when I sat in on a session with Shelley Bond.
Hmm.
Because she worked closely with him for like Shade the Changing Man and a number of things. Bocello.
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 That book looked cool. That came out. That was at the very end of Cliffhanger. I feel like
it looks cool. I never saw it either.
It's odd. I get Umberto Ramos and Chris Bacalo mixed up all the time. I constantly interchange their names, and I feel like there's a similarity to their art, but not.
Yeah.
But I almost think it's just maybe
It's
they
just
were.
the shapes. They're shapes guys.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't think I printed the list out.
it's all right.
They have big chunky dynamic shapes.
Oh.
But very very different.
I love the chonk.
Mm-hmm.
Tell Martin I love his hat. Jonathan loves your hat, Martin.
Can't have it.
You can't have it. Sorry, sir. Do you want to talk Danger Girl?
We can talk some Danger Girl. I remember Danger Girl mostly from like the lurid, out of context images that would show up in Wizard. You know what I'm talking about?
No,
not
not
at
at
all.
all. Not Abby chasing
really?
a bubble bath. No.
Yes. Okay, so you're being facetious.
I was being
always.
always.
You do remember that. And I remember thinking like, this is a book I could never actually purchase and like bring home to my house because I don't know what would have happened. But it's
Let me introduce you a little bit later to Red Monica.
yeah. But going back and reading it, my first impression of it is that it really seems like they knew what they were doing with Danger Girl because it takes off. It like reads like a movie. The characters, for better or worse, are stolen from people who already exist, which is not a new thing in comics. But it just goes from action to action to action to action, and like there's a set piece, like it's set up like a good serial, like it. And
Is that the best read of the group?
I would think so.
I wouldn't think of Danger Girl as the best read of the group, but I think after we've discussed everything,
It's smarter than it looks. I think is the problem. Is what kind of what he was talking about. Where
do you want to do the camera?
we can do dot cam, but literally, it stays true to form with the name of the line.
Well, that actually looks good on the document.
There are probably more real cliffhangers in Danger Girl that I didn't read those other ones. I've read some Crimson and some Battle Chasers, but like the preview issue that came out in Wizard, I believe, starts with a cliffhanger with like Abby driving off the edge of this cliff in a Jeep. Like,
which is actually a really great. That's a
It
fun
is.
page.
that's what I was telling. He showed it to me earlier. I'm like, that's a fun. That's something that you want to look at.
and something else too that I think we can compare to some of the other things. Richard Starkings, I believe, is the letterer, and Comicraft is the letterer on this, and it's digital lettering, but it is some of the best digital lettering that I've seen anywhere.
Better than the one in my book.
Which is funny because in looking through Battle Chasers, it's Richard Stark in Comicraft, same letterer.
Yeah.
It's so busy. It's so annoying on some pages. I can't stand it. It's two different flavors.
Just the design. The design
Part
is
of that
so
late,
strong on
that
this.
late '90s. We got computers. We can do everything now.
Well,
Let's do
yeah.
everything on one page.
But I think it's a J. Scott Campbell leading the way, saying
Yes.
it needs to be clean. and readable, whereas
Yes.
Joe Mad's like, let's just throw the whole kitchen
Yeah.
sink at this, and I want 15 different fonts and scripts, and there's all these weird word bubbles and things like that, where it's maybe it's fun conceptually, but on the page, you're like, it's kind of a jumbled mess.
Yeah, and this book does get a little cheeky here.
Heyo.
Like a little alligator.
Who let the buns out?
a little
it family
alligator
friendly here,
snaps
Mr. Lee.
snaps at Abby Chase. But like, there's definitely like stuff like that happens throughout the book, but it doesn't ever feel gross. At least to me. I mean, I'm sure some people will disagree with me, but it's like a James Bond movie. Like these things happen as a reason to show these things visually.
I feel like the iPad's showing up really well on that camera.
Yeah,
That's much better than I anticipated.
it looks pretty good.
I'm not so sure.
No,
I
you
can't
see
it.
But
I'm cheated
another
every
thing too, like we're talking about clarity.
This
like
book is all soft blues too.
yeah.
Nope. Now, of course, you changed it. There's warm colors on it. But look at that.
But they do a lot of nighttime stuff, like a lot of nighttime intrigue stuff. But another thing that I like about this too
Heyo.
is they keep the gags and stuff very simple. So like J. Scott Campbell can do those kind of visual funny things that he's known for from like Gen 13, and I don't think anybody would say the plot is very deep, but it's very fun.
Do you expect a deep plot from something called Danger Girl that is a James Bond, Indiana Jones hybrid ripoff, spoof?
No, but
having
it's
fun
like,
with?
but like these things, like the car driving with the helicopter shooting down at him. This stuff is done so well, like you totally believe that these things are happening, and you get such a great sense of motion in all of these different things. And I love this like a recap page that's just in black and white that has images from the previous issue. That's so.
I think that's a
smart.
good gimmick.
That is so smart. I know that they kind of did that in some other lines across publishing during this time, but like this is just very well done.
I don't give Campbell enough credit. This is very slick.
I wish
Yeah.
he did. I wish he did more actual comics.
I always just think of him as the
cover guy.
pinup cover
Yep.
guy. Man, his interiors in this have so much energy. They're
Yeah.
so much fun. They're
Yeah.
very clean. Again, with Battle Chasers, I think Joe Mad. I don't want to say he's the best artist of the three. I think he's the most influential artist of the three, and I think that what he brought to the table was a totally different thing that a lot of people ripped off for years on end.
Yep, he brought
They
that
still are.
anime look that melded perfectly with superhero.
That Manga America.
Campbell's
Yep.
storytelling in this is leaps and bounds ahead of Battle Chasers is very pretty. There's some pinups in there that you're like, wow, that's such a cool, unique style. But
But this isn't telling a story.
Yeah, this is such a great like popcorn movie, like
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
way through. And then of course we got monster zombie Nazis as the villain. And like this is a fun character too. This guy who's like this little cowboy guy. He invented some kind of magic derivative, which is kind of funny. So they kind of have their fandom type person in there, so they can kind of include the fandom as that character, which is kind of fun. Like there's like everything is done for a reason, and everything is so tight and well put together. The coloring is great. I don't know if they updated the coloring because this is the deluxe edition, but I don't. I think the coloring was probably pretty close to this, but there's just so much good
With
stuff.
Crimson, when I think when I first found my trade, I actually texted Evan. I'm like, this is duller than I remember it, because to me I always remember like these vibrant reds and things coming out of Crimson, and
Yeah.
it wasn't there. But then I'm looking at the paper. It might have just been a paper thing where this paper had like a matte texture to it.
You're saying the matte was duller?
I think so, yeah.
Interesting.
The paper it had that feel to it, whereas I don't think the printing style matched up with the paper. Like it wasn't, because I think it originally was designed for the really glossy. super, yeah.
Yeah, I mean this stuff is set up for gloss. Like I imagine that Paper Girl's probably on a gloss
Oh yeah, it had to
gloss
be.
page. But overall, I was very impressed with it. Like you get a good sense of the characters just by their designs and how they interact with other characters. And there's a whole complete story with a beginning, middle, and end to it.
Can I ask a spoilers question?
Yeah.
Did one of them turn on the other two?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to remember that for the longest time,
Yeah,
a couple days ago, and
It's
I'm
all
like,
it's all the classic spy intrigue
Yep, yep.
stuff. You need to have the betrayal in a spy story. It's a necessity. And I wouldn't say that there's anything brand new or anything that's going to change the game. But it's just all those familiar beats just packaged up in a nice package, a nice enjoyable package that looks, great and easy to read, easy to finish, highly entertaining.
Do you remember a Vertigo book that came out a few years later called Codename Knockout?
That name sounds very familiar.
I can't picture it, but the name definitely.
It was a spoof taken even further than this, and it was brilliant. It was really good. It's actually one of the first posters that Larry Spizman, the former owner's husband, came in and took the poster down out of the hallway and said, "Nope, we can't have that up."
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was funny.
Might have to Google this real quick.
There you go.
Just to have a frame of reference.
Martin, is there a Danger Girl casting call somewhere?
Yes, right there on that piece of paper in front of
yeah.
Aaron.
Do you want to take us through that? Or do you
Direct
wanna-
from Wizard,
Sure, we can do that.
1998.
So, Wizard 1998. Do you want to go to the dot
We'll
cam?
go to the cam. So this is from Wizard 98. If they were casting the movie at that time, Martin found the time frame appropriate pictures for
Yes,
some of the
I think
casting
that's right.
choices. We thought it was pretty solid, right?
Pretty spot on.
Well,
like
Actually, Jonathan says, "Looks great, nice. You've sold me on some Danger Girl." Danger Girl's only 6 issues too, so it's
Yeah.
a nice tight little book. And there were some sequels and things like that.
2 issue, 1 issue, and then a couple other things in more recent times. But
So
it's the only one that's considered ongoing still.
So you could read the whole catalog of a Danger Girl in a
Relatively cheaply, yeah.
a setting or two, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think you regret it, especially the first one. Charlize Theron as Abby Chase, which, in the time period, like that is perfect. I don't really know Gina Lee Nolan. Do you know who this person
I had to look her up to see who she was. I think she's Baywatchy.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
that's perfect
okay.
for your Russian spy character. Elizabeth Hurley is Sydney Savage. That's
But she
who-
played in the Austin Power movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
J. Scott Campbell was drawing Elizabeth Hurley.
It was,
when-
If you
when
look at even that picture there, I think is like
used in the Claire Danes as Silicon Valerie.
Great name.
These names are
it's
so
so
much
bad.
fun. Like they're great. I could totally see that.
Claire Danes do anything nowadays, or
She does a
kind
ton of stuff.
she
Yeah.
had the big Showtime show.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember the name
Movies
of.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
Something to do with like
That was-
Homeland Security or
yeah.
whatever.
I always just think of her as
I
a
think it might have
90s,
been called Homeland.
a 90s actress, but I don't know.
Security.
I'm not in it as much as you guys.
This Dan Schneider. I don't know who this is, but he looks like that.
He's
character.
from Head of the Class, and I can't remember what else I saw, but
But he's like their tech connecting logistics guy.
Jonathan is confirming Homeland.
yeah.
Timothy Dalton is Donovan Conrad. They was drawing Timothy Dalton
Yep.
as this
James
character.
Bond at the time? Yes, no, or is that
In
no? That was
98,
earlier.
that was Brosnan.
That was earlier. Yeah,
He was
Brosnan
Brosnan
about
at that
point.
time. John Polito, the Crow, is Peach. This guy looks just like that character.
Yeah, he's a character actor who I recognized as soon as I saw his picture, but I couldn't tell you.
Billy Zane is Johnny Barracuda. That would have been great at that time because that's like Phantom era.
It's amazing
Billy
how
Zane?
much Billy Zane comes up in Wizard casting calls.
Yeah.
That is-
I generally enjoy Billy Zane though.
He's the Valiant of actors, as far as Wizard goes.
Martin, that's a very
Yes.
good observation. I feel like we've only looked at a handful of
And
casting
then all
calls.
Billy Zane's been in
Zane
every
comes
one
up
of
in every
them.
one of
They're
them.
trying to get Billy Zane some work. Come on, what's a guy got to do to get some work around here?
He's paying for some good ad placement, I think.
Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the magazine I need to invest in to get new acting jobs.
Not Variety.
Not Variety. Cheech Marin is Kid Dynamo. Is that the little person?
I think so. I wouldn't know. I didn't read the book recently.
I feel like that's a weaker call. And Night Court's Richard Mall is Mr.
It's like you
Giggles.
said at night course, Richard.
I remember Night Court.
I didn't write it. Wizard did.
They
so
they cast Richard Mall.
a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they just think it's funny
Yeah,
to put Richard Mall in
maybe.
something. But a very fine actor, Richard Mall.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Richard Mall.
So a couple fun facts about Danger Girl. It launched the line in March of '98. It charted number one. The number one charted at number 5 with 153,000 copies.
I just can't believe it's not more.
It was the smallest series at 6 issues for a complete story, and it took 19 months to publish those 6 issues.
Richard Mall, Jonathan's saying, was the voice of Two-Face in Batman the Animated Series.
Really?
Oh, okay, I can see that.
I wouldn't have got that at all.
Yeah.
That's cool, though.
I like that they set their sights on a complete story. I think that is incredibly smart to have a complete arc in mind. I think that was very, very prescient and ahead of their time really, because I don't know how many other things are really doing that, because everybody was kind of doing the X-Men route, where like here's the main plot and here's a subplot, here's the main plot, subplot, and they just kept going and going and going and going.
Joe Mad, he fascinates me. That he was such a explosion in the industry. One of these, like we talk about, like a gym shooter, like coming in at such a young age. He was interning at the age of 16.
Yeah, I can't believe like one of his first. I when I looked at his wiki page, I don't have that.
Yeah,
here,
went to
He
but-
must have been a city kid.
something
right?
really
He got a
early,
High
yep.
school
Long
internship.
Island School of Art and Design, 16 years old, intern at Marvel, doing Marvel Comics
you
Presents.
imagine?
And I remember when Joe Mad got popular, I didn't have a ton of Marvel Comics Presents, but I had some, and I had the issue where he was drawing Mojo or something like that. And I just remember thinking like,
He did a North Star story, was his first one.
okay, but I just remember thinking, because I was probably a 15 or 16-year-old kid, going, oh my gosh, I've never heard of anything like this. We're like he was doing X-Men at the time, so he's in the big X books, but you look at his catalog and like, I'm sure in the back of the Wizard Price Guide, it was like first Joe Mad for whatever, and I was like, oh, I think I have that book. But just amazing that like at 16 years old, the kid was good enough to be a professional. And then by the time he was like 18, 19, 20, he's doing X-Men.
Yeah.
And he's doing X-Men like
Through
taking
the roof.
taking over X-Men and setting the whole stylistic tone for how the X books
And
look.
that's hard to do. I mean, you got that Jim Lee look is what you're coming off of.
like you
and
compete with Jim Lee. Nobody's competing with
John
Jim Lee.
Byrne before that. We
Nobody's
got,
competing with John Byrne.
Silvestri's. I don't know if he was like iconic, but you have all these great artists.
Well,
who have,
I'd consider Silvestri iconic.
well, I don't mean like he did an iconic reformulation of the look of the characters and all,
But he laid all the groundwork for Jim Lee to
love.
come in and really take off.
which tends to be a Jim Lee thing.
But again, you're 19, 20 years old. You're setting the tone for how the X books look. And then by the time I guess he's like maybe 22, 23, 24, he's working on his pet project where he has total creative control. And he's captured this lightning, puts out Battle Chasers, and I think immediately the video game industry comes knocking. Because as far as I can tell, all he ever wanted to do, and I think Joe Samuel has told this to me, which vibes with everything I've ever read, all he ever wanted to do was play Final Fantasy VII and make his own Final Fantasy VII. And so I think that when a couple of these fantasy-based books come out, and the characters are great. The images are all very strong.
The world looks cool.
He can immediately just say, okay, I can focus my attention over here doing storyboards and scripts where I'm probably going to get paid a lot more money.
Exponentially more.
Because the video game industry was not what it was now, but like was much larger than the
Well, it
comic.
was climbing while comic this time were about to hit their big decline for several decade.
Logically, it makes a whole lot of sense to make that switch at that time. And it's interesting. I think that Joe Mad's style comes from looking at video games, like the.
It's a guy who's played. It's a guy who plays Street Fighter. It's a guy who's played Capcom beat 'em ups, where it's got that a little bit of Japanese style to it. There's a little bit of manga in some of those games, but it's just the cartoony hyper masculinity, hyper feminization, big fantastical beasts, and just kind of a slobber knocker setup. Very, very interesting. Again, my Larson connection, because I got to bring everything back to Larson, is Larson was putting out a book, Vanguard, in 1993.
Oh, I vaguely remember Vanguard.
And he was grabbing all sorts of guys who were like breaking through on a big way. Because I don't think Joe Mad had gone to X-Men yet in 93. But I think he maybe captured him in between, where he got him to draw an issue of Vanguard. He got Jason Pearson to draw an issue of Vanguard. The series was okay, but he poached like really great young talent for like single issues, and I think that's what he was really good at early on when there was all this image money was around.
Right.
I think everybody was kind of looking for the next big thing. And I don't know if it
Jason
was all,
Pearson. There's another.
was it all Gaijin
phenomenal artist.
Studios or something like that? But I don't know. He kind of walked a different path than the other guys, where I feel like Liefeld and Silvestri and maybe Jim Lee were all looking for a similar talent. Whereas I feel like Larson was recognizing some guys that had some different styles and different talents were going to be big. So that's my.
I can't actually believe how many people were working at each of those Image Studios.
Sorry.
Living in that time, I didn't realize that, but then looking, like, just going to do research on things like this, it's like they had huge studios going. That was just...
Can you imagine? And like earlier in the 90s when it was really booming, I feel like if you were just around, you could almost be a walk-on for some of these different things.
I got a big goober in my throat. Matarera produced a total of 9 issues in 4 years, publishing 2 to 3 issues a year for pace, which was
Let me put this
criticized.
in a different light for you.
Okay, thank you.
It took 40 months to publish 9 issues. The series is unfinished.
Battle Chasers 10 never came out. It was placed on indefinite hiatus, but ultimately he got to do what he wanted to do. That I believe 4 years ago he finally released the Battle Chasers video game to like Switch and Steam, and it's basically just Final Fantasy VII, which is what I think he loved, and he made his love letter to it and was using his characters. And it was actually a very well-received video game. I don't think it was like critically acclaimed or anything like that, but everybody said, hey, if this is what you're making, a JRPG, and it's going to be in tribute to a Final Fantasy, you did a really great job. I've never played it. I'm not a huge video game guy, but I have interest in that.
Battle Chasers was the only one of the Cliffhanger books to take the #1 spot in the sales charts.
Okay.
And that was with issue 4 at 144,000 copies.
Was that a Red Monica cover?
That is,
Yes.
there were 4 different covers, I remember, and that was the Red Monica cover you're probably thinking of is number 4. Issue 9 placed at 13th on the top 100 or 300, and only had about 69.
What was that?
69,000 copies for the last one. 69,000 copies.
69.
Unreleased number 10 had pre-orders of 65. So the delays and the market really did affect them.
It's just like in the early Image days. Like if you delayed your book 6 months, like even 3 months, like you would see a significant decline in pre-orders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really marked. As I was going through each of the months from 98 through to 2001 when I was doing this, it was just interesting looking at the way that numbers dropped the longer something was delayed.
Do you remember that from like an ordering standpoint at all? Like, I know that the Image guy has gotten a lot of, not trouble with retailers, but would fight with retailers because they would want the publisher to resolicit the book.
Right.
And if you resolicited the book and it was 6 months delayed, your numbers are going to drop. So all the Image guys wouldn't resolicit their books.
There was a lot of technical and legal stuff that went on around then that actually secures us now, where at a certain point the book has to be automatically resolicited. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Now we've got a little. Hope you guys can handle this. We got some battle chasers, which was your assigned book, Evan, versus Evan's favorite character of all time, Machine Man. The Marvel Annual 98 starring Machine Man and Bastion came out the same month that the first issue of Battle Chasers came out. Battle Chasers sold 111,000 copies, and Machine Man sold 37,000 copies.
That's great for Machine Man.
Now, that's what I was going to say. For a Machine Man Bastion throwaway...
also X-Men.
Yeah, but it was starring, spoiler, 2 robots. I thought that was pretty amazing.
I have that issue.
The X-Men, the juggernaut that was X-Men at that time, was selling quite steadily, well over 100,000. It was, I think when I started looking, it was like 163. It was usually Uncanny and X-Men were generally 1 and 2, but the Image books or something special threw them off. But I was curious as I was going through the sales charts when X-Men would dip below that 100,000 line. And just as it was approaching it, Marvel relaunched it with new X-Men and the Joe Casey Uncanny X-Men. It didn't actually relaunch. And it sold and shot those numbers right back up to where they were 5 years ago. So that's kind of the start of where I think Marvel realized the power of a #1, to which they've abused ad nauseum for the last 2 decades.
Let's look at the Battle Chasers book real quick. We'll flip through that, and then we'll get on to Crimson.
Do you want to flip through it up here? On the thing?
We'll go to that.
On the can?
Sorry. I'm not paying attention here. Ooh.
Oh, look at that shiny
Look
liquid
at
logo.
that terrible binding. Oh.
Mamma mia. Look at that Joe Mad. He's ahead of his time, too. I feel like fantasy stuff has kind of come into its own.
He brought it kicking and screaming into the forefront of comics.
Interestingly, Cliffhanger is this a departure from superhero comics?
shiny.
Yep, this was
Because like you could argue all three of those books aren't superhero.
it was a conscious effort for them all to escape superheroes. Yes.
And do you think in a way that this started like all the other weird Image stuff where you know like did this eventually turn into Criminal that like we've extrapolated so far from like we don't have to do superhero stuff anymore, that we can do superhero adjacent and action stuff, and now we can just do fantasy stuff, and now our fantasy stuff we can just like are we following
I think it's in part of that. I think
that's a great page.
Wildstorm leaving Image, I think also helped them realize that we can rely on things that are not superheroes.
Actually, interestingly too, with all the homage stuff, there was a lot of non-superhero like that. This was kind of a turning point in like '98 that like we can do things that aren't superheroes and it can sell.
because obviously the 90s were exclusively
Oh,
superhero.
oh my.
Oh.
Too hot for TV there. Yikes.
So this book is beautiful, but it's also kind of a hot mess. The story is very non-existent. You're introduced to like these cool characters. I love the big gloves.
the gauntlets.
As you're going, does it feel like maybe the story is intentionally that way? Like it's pushing to, like you're exploring this world, or is it more like I'm just going to do this month?
I think that you're establishing this world that I think he wants to turn into a different type of property. And I think he's having fun drawing it. But the story itself is very incoherent. Like where you meet Gully and you realize that her father's missing, and these werewolf creatures come on. The first 8 pages are almost like incomprehensible. Which all of a sudden you know Gully's on the run and runs into Cabaretto or whatever, and
The robot guy?
The robot guy. All the designs are great.
Yeah.
But it's and the action is fun. But I think the storytelling device getting from action scene to action scene is very weak and oftentimes like doesn't make much sense. I'm also going to complain about the lettering on this book, which is so funny because again it goes back to Danger Girl
that
also
right
had
there.
Richard Starking's.
There's like 7 colors of letters on that
Yeah,
page, isn't
it's
there?
just
Yep.
so like actually just flip to the front page again. First real page of the story. This is just so busy.
Yeah.
It's so busy. And like the characters are cool. You know, you got a little establishing shot, but like there's different fonts and balloons, and it's just too much for me.
That's a perfect example of like, look at all the different stuff we can do. We're gonna do all of it on one page.
And it just totally distracts from the storytelling.
Like even this page is kind of a mess. Like,
And I wonder if it is Joe Mad saying, "Hey, we've got all these fun tools that we can do." Richard Stark can go crazy, whereas Campbell's like, "Hey, Richard Stark, and like we're gonna keep this neat and clean," and because that's what
My
like,
pictures are selling this, not your letters.
Danger Girl, they're these slicks characters, you know, and we're gonna keep that as such with the writing, with the lettering.
and they had some different kind of character typefaces in Danger Girl, but very very rare. And I think it was only for like the really bad like evil zombie Nazi characters. Like everybody else's was
It was pretty standard.
Yeah. And that is an interesting case to keep the different fonts minimal. But like when you sometimes this isn't so bad, but like when you put a lighter color on a white background, and there's definitely comics out there that are way worse for readability than this, but
that's
it's
just
not great.
from a readability standpoint. Like I can't read what he's saying here. And it's not that my vision's bad. Well, my vision's not great, but like it's just so washed out.
And it's like making the directional arrows like it's just weird. It's very odd, especially when you know what Richard Starkings and Comic Craft are capable of. Like the Generation X stuff, I thought they did a pretty nice job with. I mean, that'd be something to break out and look at sometime too. Is that early Generation X stuff?
I would do that. That'd be fun.
But I think that some of that is very.
It's a lot of
pinnacle.
boobs and butts, and I mean he draws good boobs and butts and big muscly guys, but I don't know. Visually, it's very fun. I think the characters are all very cool looking, but I didn't care too much about them personally.
Yeah.
But I also think just his style just influenced so many different people.
So video gamey. Look
Yeah.
at that. Like that. This is begging to be like polygoned.
Yep. Yep.
Now, Aaron, did you buy any of the Cliffhanger books when they came out? Or
No.
None? Okay.
No.
Martin, did you buy any of the Cliffhanger?
All of them.
Yeah.
I don't think I bought anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I'm sure I have a bunch of these sitting in a box at an undisclosed location.
If I had been more aware of these different things, I'm sure that I would have bought them. But then there's also like, I don't know. It's just like edgy enough that I would have felt weird about it. I think, because how old would I have been in like '98? Like middle school. It would have been like just.
Hey, we're gonna fast
Just
forward
weird
a little
enough.
bit to the sketchbook in the back, actually, because
Ooh,
I was
sketchbook in the
shocked by this.
Oh, look at this nice Adam Warren.
Adam
stuff.
Warren, yeah.
Yeah, he did a bunch of backups for the last several issues, which
Because what they're probably cutting the main. That's right. They're
think so.
cutting the main story into 12 pages just to get something out there and sticking an Adam Warren in the back.
40 months.
He's even worse than Joe Med.
He would. Yes,
come-
yes.
I don't even know what I was looking at there. Jeez.
What is this Dark Horse thing?
Can
that
you
he-
flip?
yeah.
Can you keep flipping through? I think it might be the next
Yeah.
page here. No. No. I think this is stuff from issue 10 that was never published.
And that was just a rights issue. Where
All
there's-
right, so we're gonna hold pause up there. That top left-hand corner, there's a profile of Garrison. And when I saw this, I was really taken aback because I do this side profile all the time, and I've done it so much, and I got it from this image, and it's been 20 years removed, if not more, that seeing it again really jarred me. And I went back and I found a sketchbook from college of where I was doing like the exact same hard-angled thing.
Let's do it. Let's do it side by side.
Yeah, and this is
Oh, wow.
my
I'm just kidding, I
profile
can't see
my
it.
profile has changed a lot in the 20 years of doing it.
Yep.
But like it's a stylistic thing that I ripped off from Joe Madureira when I was like a teenager that I still doodle to this day. That's like one of my go-to profile, and it's evolved a lot since that. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's me directly ripping off Joe Mad.
He showed me. He actually quickly did a quick sketch the other day when he was.
But profiles are
Sure.
hard to draw. If you can find somebody
Or
who's
another one like down there where it's just it's definitely the hard angled nose, the big chin, the silly lips, and again this is pretty rudimentary, but
Phil Jimenez. When I was watching him do a lot of sketches at one of the New York Comic Cons, and he would basically do the same profile of Wonder Woman or Donna Troy or whatever, and it was just amazing to watch, like the precision of how he knew how to do this every single time. So yeah, I think that profile is a
well, it's
is a
like
skill.
when we did Give Me Indie Comics with Frank Camuso. You learn the calligraphy of the faces of different characters, and it does come down to kind of calligraphy because it's just making the different strokes to define the different parts of a face of a character, or other parts of a character too. Like I was looking at some of my characters from, and this is something I've kind of known for a while, but a lot of the characters in Wesley the Robot are kind of like deconstructed pieces of Wolverine. Like the shoulder pads on Wesley are definitely like an homage to Wolverine, and then DJ Country has like a cowboy hat and mutton chops, but like it's a totally different character than Wesley.
Martin, you want to take us home with Crimson?
From Travis Charest. Look at that, or Charest.
Travis Charest. I guess I don't know how to pronounce his name. I love him.
Inker who lives around here, Ray McCarthy, did some inks on Travis Charest or Charest in his early days.
Oh, yeah, I always pronounce it Charest, but he's not American, right? Is he French Canadian or something?
Je ne sais pas.
Oh, oui, oui.
Pourquoi?
Je suis la jeune fille.
J'ai besoin d'un baguette, s'il vous plaît.
So Crimson was the third book to launch. We'll just do that data right now.
Did it have a failure to launch, like Matthew McConaughey?
No, not quite. Third to launch, it came out in May of 1998. Issue 1 charted at number 15 on the top 300 with 109,000 units, so it's below its other two. It took 32 months to publish 24 issues. It was a complete 24-issue series with a proper ending and everything. Like
That's
you
a lot
said
of
earlier, Humberto Ramos was not their first choice for the third partner.
Oh, really?
No, it was Michael Turner.
Oh, right.
And so he came in with this concept of Crimson's basically about a teenager who gets attacked by vampires while being emo in Central Park with his friends Huey, Dewey, and Louie. This was my first major eye roll of the book.
Yeah.
But the father of all vampires ends up rescuing him and it turns out that Alex is kind of like the opposite of Buffy. He's the chosen one for the vampires. So he dresses in a lot of leather, as was Matrix at the time, and
Wasn't this pre-Matrix?
this is 98.
was-
Yeah, I guess.
Matrix
Right in there,
99.
Yeah.
I would when I look at it, I always think of The Crow.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just basically him coming to age. There's a lot of it's not just vampires, it's all the other supernatural stuff. And there's a lot of like biblical subtext as well.
Do you want me to draw something or what?
With
What's happening here?
the first 5 pages,
Bullet time?
basically the scripture from creation, written in a bad scroll text, with some extra stuff added in. But the dialogue was not the best from what I was reading, but it was the breadwinner of the group coming in.
You want to throw it on camera? I guess?
Yeah.
We should probably be looking at that.
One thing that I think is odd though, because we've got the leather. The leather and the buckles are so shiny for like a dark gothic character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know they're excited about the coloring here, but that seems odd.
The
to
color
me.
does look muddy too. You're right. It's
Yeah.
not. I don't think that's how it looked on the
I
individual
really don't
issues.
think it, yeah.
I love that car though. Great job on that car.
Yeah, his art style, what I was reading a lot was hyperkinetic was a word that came up with it. And I think the 3 artists, while different, they had that same kind of high energy, expressive kind of manga.
Yes, the expressiveness was definitely present in all 3.
Jonathan saying Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Have we heard those names before?
No, never.
Those were actually the names of the characters. Yeah, it's pretty cringy.
Yeah, it was. There was some weird, cool teen dialogue and stuff. But I remember at the time this coming out that gore and blood was kind of something you didn't see much then, and was very shocking. I think.
And now it's like
Commonplace.
yeah, not even a thing.
Yeah, now unless you're doing a red room, no one cares.
Yep.
I feel like you could easily turn a lot of these characters into video games too.
At the time, I do remember liking the story long term, but that could just been from being a young person back in the day reading this.
The lettering is better in this though. It's a lot clearer.
Yeah, I think the lettering's. The only book I have issues with the lettering is Battle Chasers.
Do you think that's the thing too, where it's like just so late and they hand it off to the letterer? It's like, okay, this
Here
needs
you
to be
go,
done in
get
2
it out.
hours, and they're like,
No, but we know Richard Starkey knows what he's doing. Like,
well, right, but if you give even somebody who knows what they're doing, give them like 20 minutes to get something to the printer.
I'm also guessing like stuff flows down, so each of the lower ranking departments probably has less time in a
oh,
in
sure,
a crunch situation.
sure. But in a crunch situation, I feel like why would you go to the trouble of switching out all these different fonts?
yeah.
And this was issue 1 we were looking at, which I had my
Well, but it might have been like a mandate, thing like it's like they have meetings. They're like this
This
character
has to
has
look like this. This
yeah, absolutely, that's what it is because they're trying to establish, this. Joe Mad was more about establishing this stuff for a video game universe than he was for a comic verse. And as such, I think he's throwing in a lot of video game flourishes that don't necessarily translate well to comics. That being said, it's stuff's awesome.
And now so many comics that are launched are miniseries that are kind of geared towards pitching to movie studios too.
So in January of 1999, Earth X Zero premiered, and it was only a 1,000 books shy of Battle Chasers and Danger Girl, and it was double the numbers of Crimson for that month.
I have that one
Yeah.
Well, no, you're a fan of that. And there was also
because it's got Machine Man. It all comes back to Machine Man.
so the final issue of Danger Girl had sales of 102,000. That was in I don't have the year on that one. In 2001, when Danger Girl Kamikaze came out, it only had sales numbers of 56,000.
What year was that?
2001. So like 2 years.
Yeah,
From the
that
conclusion,
still
it
seems
was-
low to me for that time, but maybe not.
Paradise X came out that same month as and it had only Paradise X number 9, 28,000. So things had taken a big hit
Oh gosh.
between the years. More sales stuff. Evan had pointed out an article saying how high comic sales are now.
2021 was the biggest industry sales ever sales year ever for comics, adjusted for inflation, and even like during the boom of comics in the '90s, I guess where there's even though books don't sell millions of copies, there's so many more books, and I don't know, but it's very interesting that even single floppy issues were up 6%, and then all-time industry high this year.
Yeah, so I did just some quick numbers comparison. October 2021 was the last completed sales figures that I could find. Crimson's lowest ranking issue was 60th on the list at 40,000 copies.
That's not bad.
The 60th book in October 2021 was Superman Authority number 4, and that sold 35,000 copies.
That's not bad.
So, and Battle Chasers' lowest ranking was 24. In October 2021, Trial of Magneto was number 24, issue 3, and that was 60,000 copies compared to Battle Chasers' 63. Danger Girl's lowest ranking was 12th with 82,000 copies, and King Spawn number 3 was the October 2021 counterpart at 72,000. So numbers are
That's interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting. I love the number stuff. One of my favorite.
too.
One of my favorite things about Wizard was
The-
you can find it in Comic-Con now, but like that printed thing in the back where what are the top 100 books selling? I don't know why.
Just to see like what the hard numbers are. Like there's one thing about the art of the storytelling and like in the teamwork of putting together a product that is consumed, but then to look at okay, what is actually succeeding in the market, like, and then cross-referencing that between the two things. That's interesting to me.
I don't know.
So in 2015, the 3 original heads came together to do a lithograph of all their characters. They sent the art back and forth each other, Image United style.
Image United, that was a great book.
And they released it to great success at the signing at
Great success.
Comic-Con.
This year,
No, 2015.
2015.
And hold on, look at a quote.
I think that was also smart of them to do a big get the band back together thing and have it be one image, one image that is a.
We're gonna do a 6-issue mini. We're gonna all draw each other's. No.
Keep it doable. Stay inside the frame of the excitement that people have to complete the project. If they don't have the excitement to stick with it for 6 issues.
Jonathan Legerman says, same reason I like to watch the movie box office. Dude, I'm not into movies at all. Like like we go to movies once in a while and that's fun. But like, I don't know. But there was a period of time where I used to be obsessed with Box Office Mojo and just seeing what the releases were and like what movies are making money. So I don't know. It's kind of funny. It's just one of those interesting things that I like to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm at this point with movies. Like I like to watch kind of like something that has some kind of artistic merit, even if it's like schlock. Like even like schlock can have a certain artistic merit. You know what I mean?
I live it every day.
But a fun fact on Tubi. If you're familiar with the artist Bill Plimpton, who's an animator, he did a lot of MTV bumpers in the 80s, but has since done several features. All of his stuff is free on Tubi. I've been getting into that a little bit lately. But yeah, and then also all the horrible B-movie stuff. I like to watch that. It's entertaining.
From that collaboration they did, 2 of them had some great things to say. I was taking forever to find the quote.
You were just holding the paper up right in front of the camera, so all
Oh, was that? Oh,
Yeah,
so that's what we got. These guys, Jay Scott and Humberto, were there for the birth of the series. I got that same rush of nostalgia from seeing Danger Girl and Crimson characters as I do from Battle Chasers. So obviously collaborating with them again on these particular characters feels like a really momentous occasion. It was a blast, and I hope we can do it again. So I don't think they were the closest of collaborators. I don't think they were anywhere near what the Image guys were themselves, but I think that everything ended up amicable between them all. So
it seems like maybe that distance kept everything at least neutral.
Yeah.
Whereas like, because the Image guys were like brothers. And
Yes, and I think that led to conflict.
Well, they were and the brothers tested in war, basically, in battle, because to fight for their space.
You saying they were a band of brothers?
They were a band of brothers.
I would love to see a HBO documentary, like a live action acted Image Revolution. Oh my God, I would be all over that.
It's a good story.
I love any of those documentary things that they've been doing. But yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Come on, somebody do that.
The only one of the things I noticed, I don't know, I didn't hear anything about J. Scott Campbell, but Humberto Ramos and Joe Mad both were one of their inspirations listed was Arthur Adams.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
Arthur
it-
Adams.
It shows.
Early Joe Mad stuff is so Arthur
Yes.
Adams.
And I saw some quote saying that later on, just randomly, it was not attached to this, that if Jim Lee and Art Adams as your role models is not maybe the best thing. And I thought it was kind of funny that generally their artwork we think is something positive and something good, and this critic was different on it. But
I mean, these
Art
are
Adams is a good guy, right?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, like,
I love his art. I'm just saying.
Art styles is what this guy was talking
Because I thought we were
about.
implying that
no.
Jim Lee was at.
No, I'm not talking
I'm
about Jim
like,
Lee's.
I was like, I've never heard.
No, Jim Lee. I'm not. This isn't one of my Jim Lee just trash
some of
theories.
the most influential
Yes.
artists ever. Without Art Adams, you don't get a Jim Lee.
Well, he would just copied somebody else.
Right. But it wouldn't have been as Art Adamsy.
Yes.
Art Adams actually did a pinup in the back of the first trade of Crimson too.
Oh, that's good.
Good thing to note.
Martin, you got anything else?
Nope.
Aaron?
Oh, well, actually, yes, I do. At the time, living through Cliffhanger, selling it, the annoyance from the fans not being able to get their comics and all this, I think it made Cliffhanger seem artificially bigger than it actually was. Because I'm not taking anything away from it. I think it is very big. But it's just funny seeing this where, people were like desperate for their variant covers. They wanted this. We had the chrome covers from the issue ones. And I think it's just very interesting that it wasn't like the numbers like Evan was expecting.
I was expecting
Yeah.
everything to be 250. That was like my baseline for.
Which was very feasible then if X-Men's doing over 100.
Yeah.
That 150,000 average for regular issues.
That's wild.
But I think that all three books are fun to look at
Yeah.
for different reasons. And I do think that I agree with Mr. Lee that Danger Girl is the true winner.
I
Yeah.
would agree with that as well. I was
Short
a little,
and sweet. Get to
little
the point.
disappointed in Battle Chasers. Like I know there's no ending, but boy, it's a very choppy read. Very pretty.
It reminds me of there's this other book I finished reading it. What was it called? It was called it was a black and white book that was an Aircell book, Warlock 5.
You showed me that. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful book. Also incomplete. But it had more of a coherent story. But even so, it was kind of like just kind of going through the motions of like, oh, these 5 characters are fighting each other and they're like switching allegiances, and then it just kind of ends at a certain point. But I think the artwork is so stunning, and the story is like baseline simple enough where it's like it still feels satisfying even though it doesn't really conclude. It's like a TV show where it ends and like definitely has a finale, but all the characters are still going through things, and you're like, oh well, it's just a life of these characters. Like their life isn't going to end because the show's over. It's just we're leaving them at this point.
I got nothing.
Got nothing?
Yeah, I go plug some stuff. And let's go home.
What are we plugging?
I don't know.
The comic shop, 112 East Bridge Street.
The comic shop. I'll
What do they sell there?
I'll play a bumper that nobody can listen to because we don't do that not very often.
We should do more.
I wish we had something good to eat for breakfast. Whoa! Hey kids, it's the comic shop, and it's a fun part of a balanced breakfast. Chocolate and peanut butter covered cinnamon and sugar waffle shaped cereal with color sprinkles and marshmallow superhero bites. Now with caffeine, taurine, creatine, and mescaline. Don't forget a little dimethyltryptamine. Did you just give us drugs? Are you a clockwork elf? I think I'm tasting colors. Hey, the comic shop, part of a hallucinogenic breakfast.
Aaron, what was that?
Oh, the Trad Moore Doctor Strange book.
Yeah.
Coming out. I'm not sure what month that's coming out. Oh yeah, let's plug some books that are coming up. Nick Cognetti,
Pink Lemonade,
coming out in September.
28th. Ooh, I think so. I think we're on the same page.
Must be the 28th.
So it will not be September 28th.
Yeah,
Is that even a Wednesday?
Hopefully, Pink Lemonade comes out without being affected by any of the Oni stuff, because that book needs to succeed. We need to see that book be a success.
Yeah. Do you know anything about that?
I know very little about that. I just saw like the aftermath of Mark Waid attacking the press release.
Yes.
But that was about all that I saw.
It sounds like people aren't getting paid, And it's
Yeah.
when they put out a press release defending, oh, no, that's not true.
I think
and
it's like the Blue Water situation and stuff like that.
But like multiple
comics,
people
yeah.
are saying things like, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something weird. And then they just chopped a bunch of the whatever.
It's kind of like a cross-gen ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Let's stay away from that. Pink Lemonade.
Yes.
September 28th, Oni Press. What about some tough stuff?
tough stuff coming out through was it
Source Point Press. October 19th.
Yeah, Kevin Delgado, another New York Stater.
Yeah, another upstate, another
Art-
Bills guy, Buffalo.
another
Go
artist.
Bills.
Yeah, somebody that we tabled next to.
Yeah.
And then had a chance to like chat with him and hang out with him a little bit at Ithacon. So
Possibly one of us at this podcast today has collaborated with him, but that can neither be confirmed nor denied.
I can confirm the denial.
What else? Any other books coming out? Where's Wesley 9?
where's Wesley 9?
Wesley 9 is right there next to Battle Chasers 10.
It's good. It's all drawn. It's all drawn. Now I just have to ink it and letter it, pretty much. I'm halfway through, but I like to do this thing at the end of July every year, ever since I started the Wesley Project. Is that
Projects, that's like a horrible government thing.
is I hit a certain point where I'm like, I could finish this, or I could start 4 or 5 other projects for Wesley in the future. And that's
The future.
That's kind of what I've done. I've written all of volume 2, like the rough outline of everything that's going to happen, of like an arc going through through the future stories. A lot of fun stuff. I've shown Evan some of the stuff that I've drawn for it.
Our very own local Joe Mad.
Hey, I get stuff done, man. I've done 9 issues. No, I've done
That
8.
could be
I've
like
done
the
8
biggest
issues.
insults you could say to Aaron.
I finished Preet's Pizza and I finished Creep of the Crop. So like,
So screw you, Martin.
and
The
you,
Crimson of his universe are both those books tied.
yeah, and Martin, you're in both of them. So
The Martin sequence in Wesley 9. We've talked about it for about
I know
6
they've
months.
been teasing this for like ever now, and it's very
takes,
annoying.
It takes time. I got a baby too. You know, like I don't just
Congratulations.
Baby.
yeah. She's doing great. I'll plug Lucy for a little bit. She's very attentive now, very very silly and laughy. She likes to play with toys that shake or spin. She likes lights. Yeah, she's just great.
Martin, stop.
She's very enjoyable. You know, like sometimes she'll like be upset and I'll be like Lucy, and I'll just like look over at her and she'll like look back at me and then she'll have this big toothless smile. Very adorable. Yeah. Yeah. So
Jonathan says, if someone's worked with Papa Lee, I can attest he gets stuff done.
yeah.
I feel like I'm supposed to be doing a drawing for you at some point too, Jonathan. Let me know.
You did it. It's right there. It's,
Yeah, there you go.
yay!
Actually, I'm gonna get Evan to draw a backup story for Wesley. Maybe Wesley 9. No, that might be a little too soon. I don't want to do that to you.
The Adam Warren of the comic shop. Evan Coy.
But yeah, all those books are available from the comic shop. I have an Etsy
Are
account.
they? I don't know. We got wiped out the other day
Oh, did you
Yeah.
get wiped out?
by your buddy.
We have Preet's Pizza. We have Creep of the Crop. We have a good selection of Wesley stuff. Might be time to do a reorder. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
You had a whole bunch of stuff at home, I feel like. I don't know.
I still have at least one collected, like all the way through for other purchasing. But yeah, I have stuff. I have stuff around. If you're interested in any of those things, let me know. Yeah, doing tons and tons of production stuff. Digging deep back into my sketchbook, like using the sketchbook to start to plan out different panels and pages, drawn on paper. I've been doing a lot of
I
digital
know it's like the
stuff. for a
third
while.
time tonight. There's like a goober in the back of my throat. It's gross.
All
Sorry. All right. I think that's where we're at.
And there we go. We're gonna leave you on that cliffhanger. Will he get it? Will he
Will
not?
I get it out? Will I not? I don't know.
Will he die?
Is it COVID? Is it monkeypox? We'll tune in next week.
It's jumping worms.
Jumping worms.
You've been listening to The Comic Shop does a podcast featuring Cliffhanger. And also me, Abby Chase.
Oh, and I'm Red Monica. I got some big hands.
Oh, God.
And we're here with Martin drinking a soda.
I just want to copy Aaron.
Okay.
I want to be cool like him.
Well, you got to get the drinking on the mic. That's the
Yeah,
important
that's what I was
part.
trying to do.
Because
but
we got to get that crossover.
All right, good night,
audience.
then he
everybody.
made the big
Good
hands
night,
joke,
everybody.
and I'm like, about to spit my